Welcome to this Tuesday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham and Neal McCready here with you this morning. Ole Miss and Auburn, 8 p.m. tonight from the Pavilion. Neal loves those 8 o'clock games, so we'll get another one for him here between the Rebels and the Tigers. We'll open the show here in a few minutes talking to Bryant Matthews of auburnsports.com. We'll talk a little about tonight, probably talk a little football too, because there's only so much basketball, but nonetheless, get to him in 1 minute. Tell you the podcast brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. Daiquiris, lunch specials, ribs. You know the drill by now. You also get great gas prices that get a little better with the mobile rewards program, the Speed Plus app, and more. And next door at the Oxford Crystal, use your basketball ticket as a coupon, $150 off a steamer pack or a sack full there at the Oxford Crystal. And again, coming to you from the Clark Ford studio.
We are. Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Call that number. Ask for my friend Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's right to the bottom line. There's no hassle. There's no haggle. You get the quote, and the rest is up to you. You can shop that quote around, or you can do what I've done, and that's hop into a Clark Ford. You'll love the service. You'll love the product. Corey wants to be a car guy. He wants to be a truck guy, and he will prove that to you when you call the number 662-257-1900. If you are out and about in Oxford tonight and you're not going actually to the game, I suggest that you go to Rafters on the Square in Oxford, watch the game on all of the big screens. You can do that again on Saturday when Ole Miss plays at LSU. It's an 11 o'clock game. All games should be 11 a.m. games. All games, every sport, all the time. 11 a.m. Ole Miss at LSU. You can watch it at Rafters on all the screens. Enjoy beer specials. Enjoy their lunch specials. Great burgers, great Cajun fare there as well. And then don't forget Sunday brunch, 10:45 Bluegrass brunch, $5 Famous Bloody Marys, $3 mimosas. And then there's a professional football contest on Sunday evening that will be played in Miami between a couple of teams, and you could watch that at Rafters as well.
Brian, good morning. Appreciate the time. I guess if there has to be an 8 p.m. tip, at least it's on the road, right?
For our sakes, I'm sure y'all don't appreciate these 8 p.m. tips. I much prefer the 6, and as you said, 11 a.m.s are awesome.
Yeah, there's nothing better than an 11 a.m. basketball tip. I mean, I got to tell you, things move when I hear that.
Yep, absolutely. But I think it could be a really exciting and competitive game tonight between Auburn and Ole Miss. You know, you look at Auburn, they're trying to compete at the top of the SEC. They've already got 2 losses. They were swept by Ole Miss last year, the Final Four team was. So I think they're motivated to go in there and play well, but I think they've won once there in the last 10 years, so it's not an easy place for Auburn to play or win.
That's what I wanted to get to. A couple of things with Auburn. They haven't been, and look, they're not the only team that's this way, but they haven't been the same team on the road that they are at home, which probably speaks to the home environment that Bruce has been able to create there. But they've also struggled with Ole Miss, with Kermit Davis. Bruce has talked about that before. What do you, I guess, tackle both of those things for me? Why has this team struggled as much as it has on the road, and then why does Bruce Pearl's team struggle with Kermit's the way that they have?
Well, I think Kermit's just had great plans against Bruce. You look at last year, Auburn was one of the fastest teams in the country. I think they had the second most 3-pointers made of all time. So Kermit slowed it down. He made Ole Miss sort of go through their whole offense, go down to the wire on the shot clock, and they ended up making a ton of shots at the bucket. And that really helped them win quite handily at home, and then go on the road and win, I think, by 5 points in Auburn Arena. So, I think Bruce has a lot of respect for Kermit. I think he said they faced each other 10 times. I don't know the record between those two, but I'm pretty sure that Kermit probably has the edge there. And I think he's just done a terrific job scouting and preparing his team and coming up with a really good game plan.
This Auburn team looked like a elite team early in the season. They were just dominant. And then they had a kind of a little stretch there. They went to Florida and got popped pretty good. Went to Tuscaloosa, got popped pretty good. I know they've recovered from that. What did you see in those games, and what has the team done in the last week or so? I know Iowa State was a pretty competitive contest the other day that Auburn won. What's just kind of your feel for this team?
Well, it's a different team than last year. You lose Bryce Brown, Jared Harper, and Chuma Okeke. There's not anybody that can replace those guys as far as their three-point shooting on this year's team. So Auburn does not shoot the 3-ball close to as well. They're not as fast as they were a year ago. They've got to find different ways to win. They're a much better defensive team. They've got a freshman who's protected as a top 15 overall NBA pick in the draft. Isaac Okoro. He's not one that lights it up offensively a whole lot, but he'll drive. He really finishes well at the rim, and he plays a lockdown defense. They'll probably put him on Ole Miss's best guard for most of the night. And the other thing with Auburn is just trying to get better play off the bench. Been wildly inconsistent. The bench was almost non-existent in those two losses, and then against who was it at home? South Carolina. Devin Cambridge, a freshman, goes off for 26 points, and then against Iowa State, he had 0 points on OSU shooting. So he's trying to get a little bit more consistency out of the bench, and just offensively, just trying to find a little bit more consistency as far as taking better shots and hitting threes a little bit higher percentage. They're not going to be the volume 3 team they were last year, but he feels like they can shoot it a little bit higher percentage and get better shots.
What have you watched much of the league? Have you watched much of Ole Miss this year? It's a team that I think we all thought was going to be a lot better than they were. They have really underachieved. They just beat Georgia the other day to snap a 6-game losing streak. They're now 1-5 in the SEC. Have you been surprised that this team has struggled as much as it has?
I have not watched much of them, but I have been surprised at their struggles. And I think Bruce talked about that yesterday. He said they're a much better team than their record shows, and he expected more of them, to start the SEC season. So I think he feels that same way about Ole Miss, and I think he's expecting a real challenge, for Auburn. I think he also feels like, or at least I feel like, if Auburn wants to compete in this conference for the championship, this is probably a road win they have to pick up, and that puts them in a really tough place with, 2 road losses already.
Let's talk some football. I'm curious. Auburn's, I know it's a long time till the season. In some ways, thank God. In some ways, I can't. I never can. You're ready for a break, and yet you know that what's coming is like these 6 months of previewing a season. A lot of people are talking about Auburn as a top 5 type team going into next season. I think a lot of that is because Bo Nix returns. Is that people giving too much credit to a young quarterback, or do you think that Auburn team has a chance to be that good?
I think that's ridiculous. I don't think Auburn has a chance to be close to that good. I mean, I've been wrong before, of course, but defensively, they're replacing 2 of the better defensive linemen in Auburn history, and Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson up front. They're losing, I guess it's 4 or 5 starters in the secondary. And they're playing in the conference with teams that just light you up offensively in the passing game. Plus, I think we're getting more coaches and more players that want to do the same thing that LSU and Alabama does. So I think it's going to be. I think Auburn's defense is going to take a step back. And then you look on the other side of the ball, you got to replace 4 or 5 stars on the offensive line. That offensive line was pretty darn average last year. So I'd just really be surprised if Auburn was much better. Sometimes. He's sure Bo Nix being a sophomore, he should be much better. Chad Morris is a proven coordinator, and Gus has said he's going to turn over the offense to him. I'll see it when I believe it. But
yeah.
I just think you still win at the line of scrimmage, and I just don't see it for Auburn next year.
The Morris-Malzahn thing is fascinating to me because I know that they come from very similar backgrounds. They have a lot of mutual respect for each other. They have a friendship, all of those things. I get it, and I respect it. Yet it feels like that could get volatile on a couple of levels, right? I mean, number one, try not to work with your friends. And then 2, Gus likes to call his offense. And when he says he's going to hand it over, I don't trust his ability to leave it alone.
I don't either, especially when things start going sour, When Auburn loses a game or the offense struggles, he's going to step right in my opinion, and be doing the same stuff he did with Rhett Lashley and Chip Lindsey. And I don't think either of those guys are good buddies with Gus anymore because they served for a few years as his offensive coordinator. So I think this has, the same potential to be a big mess. Gus has said he's turning it all over, and maybe the 3rd time he's learned his lesson, maybe he will. I'm not saying it won't happen, but I just got to see it to believe, and I'd be very surprised if that actually happens.
I will give the SEC West this. There will be absolutely no shortage of storylines. Just yesterday, Ed Orgeron hires Bo Pelini as his defensive coordinator in a division that really needed some more personality. We, by God, got it. Mike Leach was on Dan Lebitard yesterday. Of course, Lane Kiffin's here. I mean, you got Jimbo at A&M. I mean, There's really, outside of perhaps Arkansas, there's no boring program in the West at all. I mean, there is the other thing that you have throughout the league. You just talked about the dynamic at Auburn. No one really knows how the deal with Leach at State's going to work. No one really knows how the deal with Kiffin here is going to work, if we're all just being honest. We don't know what's going to happen with Orgeron now that he loses Brady, he loses Aranda. Loses everybody. Loses Burrow.
Yeah.
Jimbo's situation at A&M feels sort of tenuous. I mean, it's got a chance to be one hell of a division. It also has the chance to be one hell of a clown car, right?
It does, and then of course you got Alabama, who will probably run roughshod over everybody again. So, yes, it should be a really interesting SEC West, and you wonder, of all those great coaches now and exciting personalities, which one's going to sort of fall by the wayside. And I think Auburn's got to be careful, really careful, because there's a lot of talented coaches in this league now. A lot of teams are hungry to win. Alabama's still Alabama. So, Auburn really needs to tighten up the ship. They are doing a pretty good job recruiting. It looks like they're going to sign a top 10 class, which is great. But, man, they've got a lot of big holes to fill for next season.
Yeah, it was mentioned in our live chat as it was going a second ago, but I agree the more I think about it. With the West, Alabama's Alabama probably. We'll see what that looks like. But otherwise, nobody is necessarily incredibly strong on paper at all. I mean, you mentioned Auburn right here. LSU, I mean, not just coaches, but players. Everybody who was potentially draft eligible has gone. State, Arkansas, Ole Miss, all still in year one. If Jimbo in year 3 can't make a jump next year, that's got a really weird sign to it. And A&M, I get Jimbo's good. He's obviously had a hell of a career. But A&M's never really taken that step. We always give him credit for about to, but it never really happens. It's there next year, and if not, it may not happen.
Yeah, I think he'll have a senior quarterback next year. See, I was never a believer in Jimbo from the start. I just felt like Florida State had sort of fallen apart under his reign there at the end, and then he was just going to A&M for a paycheck. So, he can prove me wrong this year. This is certainly the season, or they're going to really get disgruntled if he doesn't get things going over there. And you never know what's going to happen at an Arkansas or Ole Miss or Mississippi State. You just never know. They've all got 3 exciting new head coaches, and I would not be surprised if at least one of them steps up and competes in the top 3 of the conference. And as you mentioned, LSU, I just don't see them getting close to repeating what they did last year. All those players leaving, losing Brady, who was an incredible offensive mind. I just don't think somebody else could take his offense, and it was his offense, and repeat it without having him there.
You pretty excited about college baseball season right around the corner? You pumped?
Actually, I am. I think Auburn's going to be pretty good. I think they're going to be one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the SEC, along with probably Ole Miss and Georgia and LSU and all the same teams as it was a year ago. And I think it's going to be a really exciting season in college baseball. I think it's one of my favorite sports to cover. And it's fun when Auburn, the team I'm covering, is pretty good and has a chance to compete in the top of the league and goes against some other talented players. I mean, it's just amazing how many Major League Baseball players I've seen covering SEC baseball for the past 20 years. I'm sure I'm going to see a lot more this season.
Yeah, the West is kind of stupid right now. I made this prediction on Twitter. There's going to be some SEC team that's going to be, or SEC West team that's really, really good, go 13-17 in the league, and frankly probably deserve a 2 seed at that case, because you can make the argument that 6 of the 7 SEC West teams are all top 20 in the country. I mean, Alabama's Alabama, but for everybody else, this thing's pretty rough, because we've been talking about Ole Miss. Not only did they get a normal West schedule, they don't play Missouri, Tennessee, or Kentucky from the East. So do some process elimination where they do play. And they also open the season with number 1 Louisville. Ole Miss could be a pretty good team that wins 32, 33 regular season games.
Yeah, absolutely. And ends up making a run in the tournament and go in the World Series. That's exactly what can happen. Auburn sort of had a similar run last year. And I think they're a much better team than last year overall. But that doesn't mean they're going to finish better in the league or make another run to Omaha. We'll see. But it should be a really exciting year, and it's just fun covering, the opposite of what basketball was in the SEC about 10 years ago when Auburn was the worst. It's much more enjoyable covering, teams that can compete and seeing all the talent that come through Plainsman Park.
What does Auburn have in its rotation behind Burns?
Well, they have both guys returning. Gosh, I'm bad with names sometimes, but they have both their starters returned from last year, and probably the biggest improvement is their pitching depth. They've got 3 or 4 new arms that are going to step right in. One or two from junior college, another couple high school flamethrowers that are going to help out a lot in that pitching jet. Jack Owen is back as one of those guys. He's a junior along with Tanner Burns.
Right.
And they've got a kid that was a JUCO from last year that will step in. And I don't think those guys, even though they're returning starters, are necessarily guaranteed jobs once SEC play starts, because Auburn's got some really good young arms.
Auburn's done a good job of compensating Butch. He obviously gets the World Series run as well. Hey, has that program, do you feel like, stabilized now to where you do expect, not necessarily World Series, but pretty good production year in and year out without the lulls that sometimes hits those non-scholarship or at least non-lottery schools?
I think just because of Butch, because he's such a good recruiter, yes, but he's still fighting the fight, so to speak. I think like a lot of college coaches, he thinks the baseball is being overlooked, and deserves to have more scholarships and deserves to have more influence on NCAA. So, he's got Auburn in the right place. He's the best Auburn coach since Hal Barrett, I think. And as long as Auburn will keep him here and fund him and do everything they can other than the scholarships, I think he'll be successful and be here a long time.
Are they about to do any facility stuff there? Because, obviously Plainsman Park, it's quaint, it's nice, but it kind of missed that super stadium renovation by a few years like a lot of other West schools have done.
Yeah, they are. In fact, they're doing something right now. They're building a player development building out in right field, and they'll have some new batting cages, some other stuff. It's not exactly what Butch wants. It's not as big or as glamorous as he wants, but they're building it so they can expand it here maybe in a few years. That's sort of how Auburn is right now. They can't do everything they want to do. They're for whatever reason, they're just a little bit tight on the budget right now. So that makes it tougher, especially for a program like baseball, which is not a revenue sport at this time. And I think expanding and making changes to Plainsman Park is on the docket in the next couple of years. I'd say they're going to have to do something there. I mean, the park is beautiful. When it first was opened in 1996, I think it was voted the best or overall best park in the country. But that was 20 years ago, and now it's definitely showing its age. So it definitely needs some work done to it.
Well, Brian, thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it. We got you done before the plumber showed up, I hope.
There you go. Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
All right, talk to you soon.
Cut him off a little there. There it is, Brian Matthews of auburnsports.com. What were we saying, though?
I have no idea.
Well, you looked at me and you started opening your mouth.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I've tried to straighten your side of the desk throughout the process, but
there we go.
You throw it on the floor, and then everything starts just getting haywire from there.
You put me in the corner though, so at least it's like all over here contained a little bit, and it's in its spot.
That's true.
Yes, it's kind of orange. It's not completely orange, but it's close. Yesterday was really orange.
It's kind of coral.
Coral.
Yeah.
Salmon.
Yeah.
A little salmon.
Sure.
Baseball thing went a little further than you thought it was going to, didn't it?
No, it's okay. It's okay. I know you guys both love some baseball. I'm glad. It's good for people who listen, who read. They like baseball too.
Maybe I'm wrong because Ole Miss, it took a little while to build, and you might tell me I'm crazy. I don't see Auburn ever being that school that puts 9,000 in their day to day for baseball. Am I wrong? Is it possible there, or is it just not being consistent enough? Where do they kind of fall there? Because you would have said that again about Ole Miss in 2002, 3, 4, 5, but it just feels a little different over there.
Well, the way that the stadium is done,
I don't know that they can renovate to that point.
Every time that I say this, I get pushback. I will get an email, so go ahead, prepare the email. Ole Miss set theirs up, to Mike's credit, where there are thousands of people at the baseball game who are not at the baseball game. Does that make sense? They're there because there is a baseball game, but they're there to socialize, to hang out, to party. Auburn's setup doesn't really allow for that. So the people who come to the game are there for the baseball game.
They have room in right field to do it? I'm trying to pull up pictures. I know they got the big wall in left. Is there room in right field, though, to do that?
God, it's been a long time. I did a college visit with Campbell there, but we didn't.
You didn't really pay attention to that?
Didn't pay that much attention, and quite frankly, that day it was so hot. I was trying.
There's
not
a
to have
building
heat
back
stroke.
there. Yeah, there's not a lot of room at Auburn.
There's no
It's
place.
it's pretty landlocked into that little area.
There's no place for them to have a party area.
Because the only time the place they party is on top of that garage in left field. There's a group or there's not a group, but there's people that sit up on top of that garage up there.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I just, and that's not. You're not going to get thousands up there to do that.
No, it's a small park.
So, no, I don't.
In hindsight, they renovated too early because it wasn't cool. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a thing yet to renovate in a way that allowed you to do more. Because Ole Miss, frankly, got lucky in a lot of ways. They built a very small stadium, but it was built architecturally in a way to allow you to expand in a lot of different ways. Grandstand, outfield, everything.
But they put it in a
involved.
place where that stuff could develop. Whether they were
It's in
thinking
a hole, so you can build around the hole. There's an amphitheater.
whether
in a
you
way.
were thinking that would happen or not. But, we've talked about this. There's a spring day in Oxford on a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever, and you've got thousands of people in left field drinking beer and bringing their own food into the stadium. And then you've got all the people in right field, the kids blowing off steam on a weekend, having fun, throwing beers around. It's every time I do that, I'm sure the emails are probably already being prepared as we speak. That's not a baseball crowd. That's a crowd that came because there's a baseball game. There's a different thing. And kudos to them for doing it. That's just, but you see that around the league. State's got the same situation. I haven't been to a game at Arkansas in a long time, but I think their situation's very similar.
Yeah.
LSU certainly has that. People go for the party.
Although they don't have a great area for that.
Right.
I mean, it's more contained because they open that beer garden or that area would have alcohol baseball, but you can't even see the game from that area. It's closed off around the corner. It's not like you sit there and then have a view of the field. So yeah, actually, out of the ones you're talking about, LSU's the one that's kind of in a weird spot there.
Yeah.
Out of the big attendance schools, from a party standpoint, the ones that frankly have to be there kind of more for the baseball game is LSU and South Carolina. South Carolina doesn't have a lot of area for that kind of thing either.
I've not been there in so long.
Yeah, well, they have a new park anyway. If you had, you wouldn't have. They built Carolina Stadium or whatever it's called here fairly recently, but I guess A&M would be the other one considered in that group. But they blow bubbles and stuff and have their own have their own seances and different things over the course of the 9 innings.
When's the initiation at A&M? When's do they wrap the ring on the forehead?
They have a train too,
I bet they do.
Yeah, there's gonna be beer sales at baseball. I think they're doing the same thing they are at basketball and football.
Yeah, of course.
That would be dumb not to.
Of course. No, they're gonna sell beer.
It'll be in the concourse or however they do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't asked places or anything like that, but no, we'll figure it out. Be a question for today if I feel the need.
Be the first time they'll have beer at the stadium. I don't know how hopefully it'll all work out. It's really created chaos at the Pavilion this year. Brawls, fights, just
do you
really
see
out of
many
control.
people with it? I mean, how much
beer?
do you think is being sold?
I don't know. I buy one pretty much every game.
Do you?
Yeah. I don't care.
Hellion.
I know.
Hellion.
I'm crazy.
Are you nervous when you walk back to your seat? I mean, is your
No.
hand shaking that you're going to be
No.
grabbed by one of those security guards and tossed out of there?
I get the funny looks from other writers, but I'm like, man, who cares?
Like beat writers?
Yeah. They look at you like I just can't. Oh, yeah. You can
Whoa,
tell.
whoa, huh? Really?
Oh, yeah. You
Like the dudes that know you and are there every day.
Yeah. Like, just can't believe that you're drinking one at work. Like, man, I'm drinking right every day practically. What difference does it make?
Do they have an assumption you're going to get tanked up there?
I don't know what it is. I think they just look at it as, boy, I couldn't do that.
I mean, beacons of professionalism. So
Yeah,
let's
boy.
make sure we
Come on.
same beer every time, or you mix it up.
Nah, I mix it up.
Do you?
Yeah. I've tried the little craft beer.
How's the craft beer?
It's okay.
What's it called?
Susie something, I
Susie
think.
B.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Susie B.
It's all right.
That's right. Is it?
You know me, man. I like beer.
See, I just don't like it enough for that to be a draw. I just I can have a beer. I'm fine with a beer, but
Yeah, I
Take
enjoy
it or
a
leave
beer.
it.
I mean, I'll drink a Coors Light. It's not my favorite beer, but I can still like it. I can have a Miller Lite. It's not my favorite beer, but I can still like it. I like the craft beer. I like Blue Moon. It's not my favorite beer, but I can like it.
Since they've seen Mad Men, they're supposed to drink. Well, they drink because it was it helped the creative process, having to come up with all the advertising and everything. So they needed the handles of vodka and bourbon depending on the season every day.
But I'll sit in here and work on 10 thoughts or something, and I'll have a drink. It's all good.
Think it helps your writing process?
I don't think it hurts it.
It's not a negative stimulus?
No. I mean, you can have so much that now you can't really focus as well. You can go overboard, but it doesn't. I can pour bourbon into a glass and do my job okay.
What's your shirt? What is that?
It's a Chicago Marathon shirt.
Oh, okay. I don't know that logo, so.
It's a Chicago Marathon shirt. I had to take Carson.
That was your first one?
Yeah, it's the first one. Had to take Carson to, he's got a Bible study thing on Tuesday morning, and then I had to go get gas, so I had to throw something on.
Didn't have time for Home Depot this morning, is what you're saying?
Well, it was cold out. It's like 30 degrees.
I know. I actually put a coat on today. I never do that at all. You can tell it's Tuesday and we have nothing to talk about. We're just kind of rattling on. I do want to talk about this. This is more for usually Neil and myself, but we try to make it interesting for you guys. What's your take on some of the media fallout from the people that discussed the rape case with Kobe and a lot of that stuff?
I have lots of takes.
Okay. I'll line this up for a couple people, a couple different things. USA Today, I think it was Nancy Armour, had a column yesterday essentially going, hey, look, let's not make him out to be a god. He's a flawed human, but that's good because it allows you to look at a whole person. Basically, her argument was when you try to make athletes and celebrities one-dimensional, you're actually taking away some of their greatness because you're showing some complicated nature of it. You're showing how they persevere through it.
Yes.
A lot of different things along those lines.
Sure.
And then obviously the big story in media circles today, Washington Post writer retweeted or quote tweeted a story about the Kobe rape case from 2003.
It was a story that had been written about 3 years ago. It was really well done. It was a deep dive into the details of the alleged rape that resulted in she refused to testify. Yeah. The case was dismissed. They settled out of court. It was a
civil settlement and no criminal charges.
The two people's, Kobe Bryant, and the woman's name, why we still don't name her is beyond me. Her name is publicly documented in a civil case. Her name is Caitlin Faber.
Yeah. So
they settled out of court, and they signed, each of them, a NDA, a non-disclosure agreement.
Right.
And so neither of them, since 2004, when I believe it was settled, have ever spoken about it. Obviously, Kobe now never will. And, you do wonder what these few days have been like for Caitlin Faber, wherever she is. She has been able to have a pretty much anonymity.
Right.
I know that she went through a divorce fairly recently. I know that she has a young child. But that's really all the details that people know about her. She apparently tried out at one point for American Idol, stuff like that. Didn't get it. Wants to be an actress. I don't really know the details of where she is, nor should I.
So the writer for the Washington Post does this, and then immediately is getting attacked on Twitter and social media and email and all of the internet. So she then takes a screenshot or multiple screenshots of her email or of the correspondence of the people ridiculing her and tweets that out. Washington Post suspends her, sends her, documentation or memo or whatever, and goes, hey, delete that, quit.
You're hurting the institution.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
And at first thought, they're suspending her because she tweeted that. Their argument or their official statement is it was because she shared reader and responder contact information and personal information online or whatever. I think at one point they even said it was also outside of her beat or outside of her field of whatever she covers or does for the Washington Post. So this is my favorite paragraph. This is in the New York Times today, who they don't really get along with the Washington Post very well. That's a fierce rivalry if you're
think Ole Miss, Mississippi State football in the Hugh Freeze, Dan Mullen era.
Yeah, every day.
Every day.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Yes.
So you have that going on. I'm reading here from the New York Times this morning. Ms. Sanmez received an email from the Post executive editor Martin Barron at 5:30 p.m. before she was told that she would be placed on leave. The reporter shared the 3-sentence email with the New York Times. Felicia, Mr. Barron wrote, a real lack of judgment to tweet this. Please stop. You're hurting the institution by doing this. So she gets put on leave. She knows she's out. She knows she's getting fired.
That was her way of saying bye,
Shares
Felicia.
the interpersonal email with the New York Times.
Yeah. That how to quit a job spitefully 101.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I mean.
So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
When you talk about Kobe Bryant.
Yep.
It's a complex topic. You can't talk about Kobe Bryant in his entirety without talking about a number of things, including, and this is the part that so many people missed. I listen to the Adrian Wojnarowski podcast all the time, the Woj Pod.
Yeah.
I find him to be an incredible journalist. I like the NBA. He is completely locked in with the NBA. And he had Ramona Shelburne on from ESPN.
Yep.
And Ramona Shelburne probably closer to Kobe Bryant than any person in the media.
Oh, really? Okay.
And they were talking about one of the things that gets forgotten is that when that happened with Kobe Bryant in Colorado, he'd had a knee, he had to go have a knee scoped. And he went to the lodge at Coeur d'Alene or something like that in Colorado. And he had the encounter with Ms. Faber.
Mm-hmm.
And there were criminal charges that were filed. The trial actually began. And if you remember that back in those days, and you might be a little too young to completely remember it, I don't know.
I mean, I was in college.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant was in the playoffs with the Lakers. He was flying to Denver for court proceedings all day, getting back on a jet, flying to Los Angeles, and playing NBA playoff games. Then, as we mentioned, the case got settled. And Kobe's reputation, rightfully so, took an incredible hit. Because a lot of people opined that the only reason that he did not go to prison for life was because of his money and because of his celebrity and because of his stature. And that she felt intimidated and all of those things. Was that fair? Was it not fair? It's for someone else to determine. But the whole Mamba mentality thing was never a thing before that. He compartmentalized that in his mind at that moment in time and almost made that a mythological thing. That's where the whole Mamba thing came from. Almost a darkness. It's me against the world. No one understands me. I have to play this way. I have to work this way. This is who I am. And he built on that. And then if you really want to get into the rest of Kobe Bryant, you've got to go back to 2011 or so, when his wife, who he's been with forever, Vanessa Lane, was 17 years old when they met.
Mm-hmm.
She's been with Kobe Bryant her entire life, really. She filed for divorce. She kicked him out of the house. Infidelity, all that stuff. There was a divorce suit filed with names in it. And they were able to repair their relationship. And anyone who knows him says that he changed in the last 8 years. What changed him? Fatherhood. He didn't do as well with his initial children as he's done since. As he did with Gigi, all the stuff, the way that he finished his career, the way that he began to realize that all of these young players that were coming up into the league had been motivated by him, had emulated their games as much as they could by him, had tried to develop the work ethic that he had. He softened, like we all do as we get older. He got better doing the things that he did. He devoted far more time to his kids. There's a complex thing. It's human. It's like the deal with he and Shaquille O'Neal back in the day when there was this fight over who was the alpha male on that team, and it ultimately led to the breakup of the team, and they shipped Shaquille O'Neal to Miami, and he won a title with Dwayne Wade, which motivated Kobe to work even harder, and he and Pau Gasol won 2 titles. There's a lot there, and since then, the two men have worked that out. They were friends when Kobe Bryant died.
Mm-hmm.
Good friends, family friends, all of that stuff. And there's people in the media on both sides. There's some who are trying to make him a god, if you will. And then there's some that refuse to acknowledge that he grew up, that he matured, that he softened, that you can have a complicated past and become an excellent person. You can have negative things in your past, most of us do, and yet still find something that you excel at. And ironically, the thing that Kobe Bryant found that he enjoyed the very most in life was coaching girls basketball. He loved it. I was listening to a story today with the coach of that team, the girls' coach of that team.
Okay.
Her husband was talking about his wife, who passed away in the helicopter accident, about how Kobe would break down film of his team's practices. These are 13-year-old girls. He wanted them to get better, and he was talking about how much better individual kids, not just Gigi, had started getting, and how excited Kobe was about some of their futures, that they were going to get to play college basketball. They were perhaps going to get to go play in the WNBA. I was listening to Ramona Shelburne last night talking about Kobe, and she said, when he left the Lakers, he was done. He was done with basketball. And he didn't want to go back to Staples Center. He didn't want to be the guy that wanted to go back to Staples Center. But what got him back to Staples Center was Gigi wanting to go see elite WNBA players, then Gigi wanting to go see Trae Young, Gigi wanting to go see Luka Doncic. That's what got him back. Being a dad got him back into basketball, not wanting to go back and relive his past. He played his last game in Los Angeles, scored 60 points in that game that everybody talks about. Here's the part I didn't know. He stayed at the Staples Center that night. This was all by Ramona Shelburne. It was a fantastic podcast. And he stayed at the Staples Center until midnight, 1 in the morning, signing everything that anybody that worked at Staples Center wanted signed. And players and stuff, of course, wanted all this stuff signed and pictures and all that. He went home. He and Ramona Shelburne had been working on this project about his last year. And she had this whole story basically prepared and written. And if you remember that year, Kobe was not a good player. And the Lakers were a god-awful team. But he goes for 60 that night. And she sends him an email that says, I've got to rewrite everything. And he responded with, ha, ha, ha. And she said, what do you have planned for tomorrow? Is there some time? And he said, yeah, I'm getting up at 5. I'm going to church, going to work out, going to work. And she's like, what? And in other words, he flipped the page. There was no, hey, I'm going to bask in the afterglow. Nope. Next. Boom. He went to this next stage of his life, and he was a different person. So I think when you have to tell his story, it includes the rape case. It includes the way that was settled. It includes the fact that there was a period of time there when Kobe Bryant was facing a potential as a lifetime inmate in the Colorado penal system. That changes a person.
Gigi, the daughter, probably most like him.
Yes.
UConn last night, really good tribute. They put her jersey number on a UConn jersey with some flowers on one of their bench spots last night. UConn women played Team USA. Team USA doing kind of a college tour right now, playing some of the best.
She had wanted to play there.
She wanted to play at UConn.
They had gone to stores to watch a game.
I think they were supposed to be in stores last night.
I think that's right.
Or Hartford. Sorry, it was in Hartford. But either way, yeah. I think they were supposed to be there yesterday, so I know there was some tribute stuff, and that was a pretty hard scene yesterday as well. Because Kobe told that story. It just he radiated differently talking about his daughters. Yes. It was just different than anything else you saw. Because I think it was maybe it was Fallon. It was one of the talk show hosts. He told that story about how somebody walked up to him and was like, "Hey, you got to have a boy. You got to have a boy. You got to give her your legacy." And said Gigi was beside him, and she kind of bristled. She's like, "Hey, I got this. No, we're good." I mean, her dream was to play in the WNBA. That's what she wanted to do. That was her deal or whatever. And yeah, he fed off that. Just a lot of the dad stuff the last 24, 36 hours has been really well done.
Yeah,
it's moving human stuff.
It's what ultimately defined him.
Yeah.
Which is the irony of it all. Here's inarguably one of the 10 best basketball players to ever grace the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a very complicated human being who ultimately will be remembered as a dad.
Yeah.
That's the irony. I mean, it's the part of the story that probably no one saw coming. So you can talk about the rape case. You can talk about all those things and yet still tell this person's story without making him. No one would make him a god. Yet no one at the same time. The rape case did not define him. He was not convicted of rape. And so when people say he was a rapist, well, legally he was not. Did something happen? Yes. Do we know the details of what happened? No, not really. There was a lot there. And if you've ever dived deep into that case, and I have, and a lot of other people have, it's complicated. It's my personal opinion based on what I've read, and I've read a lot. Probably all that can be read. I don't think that the state would have gotten a conviction in that case.
Take a break in the show. It's about Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. Underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. They're getting local underwriting and understands your market. A leader in condo financing, the float down option, and with the rates as low as they've been in about 2 years. A good time to talk to Jason. That's 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com.
Guess I need to pull up my ads as well, don't I? That would help.
You don't have to. Just take a shot at it.
The Ole Miss men's hoops team back on Credit Court tonight. Craddock Court. What did I say? Credit Court? Craddock Court. Ben will send me a text on that one. At 8 tonight as they host the Auburn Tigers. Limited tickets remain. Can be purchased at OleMissTix.com. Join the Ole Miss women's hoops team as they play number 1 South Carolina on Thursday for a powder blue out. Tickets start at just $5. Can be purchased by visiting OleMissTix.com. Join Coach Lane Kiffin and the Rebel football staff on February the 5th for a signing day reception in the Manning Center from 4 to 6:30. Tickets can be purchased for $25 on OleMissTix.com. Don't miss out on Rebel tennis this weekend starting at 1 p.m. as the women's team host the Texas Tech Red Raiders, followed by a 6 p.m. start for the men's tennis team as they host Oklahoma State in an SEC Big 12 showdown. Admission is free. For more information, visit OleMissSports.com. And don't forget, the Lane Kiffin era has arrived. Be sure to renew your football season tickets by March 31st to secure your seats in the vault this season. Tickets start at just $199. Can be purchased by visiting OleMissTix.com. On this podcast, we're always telling you that a trip to Oxford just isn't complete until you stop to visit our friends at Blue Delta Jeans. But in 2020, the Blue Delta team has some great news for our listeners that don't make it to Oxford as often as they should. Blue Delta's new website is a one-stop shop for blue jeans. Pick your fabrics, pick your threads, make all of your customization choices, and order your new Blue Delta jeans online without having to come to the Oxford studio. It's BlueDeltaJeans.com to get your new pair started today. Don't hesitate to reach out to the folks at Blue Delta on social media or at info@BlueDeltaJeans.com to get a fitting scheduled today. We're also brought to you by the Iron Horse Grill in Jackson. They specialize in on-site large event catering for up to 250 people and off-site full catering services, especially beverage catering. If you're planning a birthday party, a graduation celebration, a rehearsal dinner, or a wedding reception, you want to be able to enjoy the moment. The Iron Horse Grill is your answer. It's a one-stop shop for beverage services for a 250 to 500 person wedding or even a 3,500 person gala. The Iron Horse Grill is one of the largest beverage caterers in Mississippi. It can service the entire state. So call Sarah Black at 601-398-0151 for your catering needs. Knock that off your worry list and let the Iron Horse Grill make your event one that is memorable forever. It's time to get out the bats, gloves, and helmets. Registration for the 2020 youth softball season, has started with the Oxford Park Commission, and they'd love for your family to spend the spring with them at M Trade Park. The cost to take part is $50. The leagues are open for ages 5 to 15. Deadline to sign up is February the 7th. For more information, visit them at oxfordparkcommission.com.
Robert Scott, the 6'6" offensive tackle from Conway, Arkansas, committed to Florida State yesterday. Flipping over to Mike Norvell and the Seminoles. How expected, Neil? What's this mean? Just kind of spend a minute on it.
Not surprised at all.
Not surprised it wasn't Arkansas instead.
Not really. He didn't have any ties to the state of Arkansas. He wasn't. There was no ties to the University of Arkansas. They lived in Conway, but they were not. He didn't grow up a Razorback fan or whatnot. He wanted to go to Ole Miss when Matt Luke and them were here. I think at one point he reached out to Matt Luke at Georgia, but Georgia didn't have room. Mike Norvell had been recruiting him pretty hard at Memphis pretty consistently. He wasn't going to go to Memphis, but when Mike Norvell went to Florida State, that created an option there, and that's ultimately where it went. Yesterday was kind of a weird deal. I don't know what happened with the tweet thing. That tweet was subsequently taken down, so I don't, who knows? It was just a different deal. But I'll say this: I like that kid. He's one of the kids I really enjoyed getting to talk to and getting to know a little bit during the recruiting process, and he's very intelligent, very polite, very nice. He's got a big frame. He's got a chance to be a player down the road, and I hope it works out for him.
Ole Miss has two offensive linemen signed in this class to this point, Eli Acker out of Columbus and Tobias Braun from Salisbury, Connecticut. One more committed but not signed yet with Luke, the kid out of Brentwood. What's that deal?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Maybe a chance of kind of a gray shirt sort of a deal there. There's kind of the rumblings. Had a shoulder issue, like a labrum sort of an issue, so might enroll and just take some courses for a semester.
Ole Miss at 17 commitments right now for its class total. So 3 more from if you're into the rankings, 3 more before it starts being net instead of gross.
And they've got 2 transfers that eat spots, so they're really at 19.
With Reese and the tight end.
Yeah, and I don't know that they're going to necessarily go all the way to 25 now. They're going to get involved in the transfer market again in the spring.
Not going to take just to take.
No. So I get a lot of these questions, and I understand the question, like how many more? I don't know. I don't know that there's a firm number. Depends on who they can get.
Yeah, I mean the number changes depending on who's willing to come. I mean it's a basic deal, but people are just so used to hey, you sign 25. That's what you do. You sign 25. You try to oversign. You decide as many as you can freaking sign, and you let it fall where it falls.
And that's not reality.
You process them. You transition them. You do whatever you got to do.
Yeah, that's not reality. There will be guys at Ole Miss and at other programs where there are new coaches who will go through the spring just to see what the deal is, and some perhaps at Ole Miss and certainly at other programs as well will find that it's not right for me, and they're going to get out. There will be guys that get into the transfer portal at different schools, and Ole Miss will be involved in that portal, I suspect, on both ends.
See where the NFL had a bunch of accounts hacked yesterday?
I did not.
See this?
No.
Something a little different. We have to deal with 2020 and 2020 that we haven't probably had to deal with 10 years ago. So the NFL confirmed Tuesday a widespread hack of league and team-connected social media accounts and said it was cooperating with its platform providers and law enforcement. Quote, on Monday, the NFL Cybersecurity Department, I guess they have one of those, became aware of a breach of league-related social media accounts. Targeted breaches and additional failed attempts were discovered across the league and team accounts. The NFL took immediate action and directed the teams to secure their social media accounts and prevent further unauthorized access. Simultaneously, the league alerted the social media platform providers and with their assistance, secured all league and club accounts. Said the Bears Twitter account was the first one to begin displaying messages Sunday from a hacker group who called itself Our Mine. One of the messages said the hack was to announce we're back, as well as to show people that everything is hackable. Also hit the Packers account on Monday as well. So there's that.
You got to think some of the passwords on some of those accounts are pretty basic.
Way too easy for what they are.
Like I can only imagine the Bears, probably Bears 1, 2, 3.
Trubisky.
Should have drafted Mahomes.
I mean, really, it just kind of falls in line. The Bears were the one hacked.
Yeah.
Bears 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Soldier 1.
Yeah.
You've fallen in and out of favor so fast with them. Like that was. I think at this point we can just call it a fad, is what it is.
Yeah,
It's.
so.
There was no long range emotion there whatsoever.
No.
Kid didn't even want to go to a game a year into it. Changed his mind.
Yeah, he's like,
they
he's
suck.
done.
It's fine.
He's done. Yesterday, he's like, you know what? We don't have to go to any Cubs games this year. I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Do you have any Bears stuff?
I've got that one jersey I bought for fun.
Oh, that's right. That's it.
That's
No
it.
cap, nothing.
No, Carson's got a cap.
You have a Blackhawks cap, but not a Bears cap.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously it's on.
I do have a Blackhawks cap. There it is. It's a cool hat. I like this hat. One of the more comfortable ones I have.
You want the Thunder to win or lose right now?
Preferably lose.
Okay.
Try to get into the lottery. They're
it
fun
doable?
to watch. No,
I mean, not really.
No, they're not bad enough.
They're 28-20.
But the deadline's coming up, and they might shop some. They might shop some guys. They might shop Danilo and maybe Steven Adams. Who knows? We'll see.
Try to get worse.
Well, I just think they're trying to collect assets. They're certainly not a contender right now. But I do like some of their young pieces. They're fun to watch. They played Dallas last night. I watched a little of it. Couldn't watch much of it because The Bachelor was on. By the way,
Finish your thought. I got something. Finish your thought.
Our boy is he's the worst Bachelor ever so far. He's just awful.
Okay. Help me. You brought it up. It's your fault. Help me. Is anyone in their right mind supposed to believe that it was all a coincidence that she was the one going to the concert with the country music singer and the whole deal, and that he didn't know, and that this is all this?
It really was it was a bad look for the brand because it looked
too contrived.
Yeah, it was such generated
We'll give
drama.
you some leeway. You get tons of leeway to kind of we'll go with you.
I get it because there's cameras everywhere, and we got to create something.
So here's my better question though: was she kept simply to get to this episode? Or was this something that was schemed once she had reached a certain point? And sorry, hold on. Okay, for everybody else. Chick on The Bachelor last night. They get a one-on-one date. They're in Cleveland of all places, which I do think the reactions were legitimate when they said, "Hey, you're going to Cleveland," and every girl goes, "What? Like we're expecting Aruba or
and then
something."
All these people keep going, "It's beautiful here." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's Cleveland.
Yeah, there's just haze everywhere.
It's just stuff. It's fine."
Yeah, like it's the best amusement park ever, and it's like it's in the no,
it's like in suburban somewhere.
So anyway,
there's an industrial park right there.
So part of the one-on-one date is they go to this concert. This country music singer who apparently used to play football at North Carolina, and Chris Rice is his name.
Chase Rice,
yeah, whatever. I think I get that right. And come to find out, shockingly. He was the ex-boyfriend of the girl on the one-on-one date.
If you are to believe her story, she dumped him to come on the show because
did not believe in his lifestyle.
Did not like his lifestyle.
Schedule.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah, sure.
So they show like Peter and her dancing and all this stuff, and try to make it look like the singer's very uncomfortable and she's very uncomfortable. And
he's oblivious to it.
Peter's just hanging out.
He's trying to do all the making out on the stage thingy.
And apparently I saw it. The singer speaks to Peter afterwards.
Yeah.
Nothing's said, and then they talk, and then they have the big dinner thing where she's like, "Hey, I got to tell you something."
So dramatic.
I mean, look, I have no investment whatsoever, but if I had a little investment, I think that's when I would have just gone, I'm out.
Well, I made fun of it. We got to the place last night where she's like, "Shut up," and I'm like, "Can I go watch the Mavericks now?" No, we stuck through it. Whatever. It's this is like so far. This is the worst season of The Bachelor that I've ever watched.
You had high hopes for him.
Thought he had a shot. Thought he had a shot to do well.
And he is the worst Bachelor there is.
He's the worst Bachelor ever. I thought he was just going to try to basically sleep his way through the house. He's dismissed most of the crazy good-looking women, and he's just kept this group that there's
brought the one chick back.
He brought her back, and now I think he's going to throw her out.
Also, they had
She's like, "I'm back, bitches."
Also, last night they have a football game, and one team just happens to score on the last play of the game to tie it, so they all get to go on to the group date.
Not fixed at all.
Well, look.
There were some hits in that game, though.
Well, here.
Like the one girl, the how she didn't blow her knees out was beyond me. She took some shots.
Well, the one team had the two best players. It was a bloodbath should you just play the game correctly.
And what was the offense that they were running? I mean, it was just like
one of the offense was just, hey, hand it to the fast girl and let her run.
Yeah,
and it worked.
Well, that offense made sense.
Well, because that team had Madison on it too, who is a basketball player.
Yeah,
like they should have been able to get some stuff done.
Yeah,
over
she
there.
was scheming some stuff.
Yeah.
The
other team running some Phil Longo stuff, just heaving that thing down the field. Somehow they tied 28-28.
Well, they were basically saying find space. They were chasing space. It worked. They were able to tie the game somehow, some way.
Yeah, okay. Anything else from that? That's all I got.
No, it was just the most dramatic fourth episode ever. I think they're realizing they've screwed this up. They're gonna have
ratings are going to take a hit.
He's boring and he can't make decisions.
He's boring. He can't make decisions, and even some of the people who watch probably are kind of for the girls, if you will. And he brings that chick back and then doesn't talk to the ones that dealt with the football game last night. He had that problem going on. He got a lot of stuff. He's
wasn't his best look.
No, and even his apology was bad.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not perfect. Well, thanks.
Yeah, no joke. Yeah. You're on this stupid show again.
Again. That's a good point.
There were some hits, though.
I like the hits.
I like the one girl who was like, I've got a bad back. I'm not going to do this.
Smart.
It was pretty smart. And she actually got some one-on-one time with him.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey. He's like, hey, come help me coach from the side. Yeah, sure.
I wanted them to pan over to them and them just be like rolling around on the
just
grass.
Leave everybody else alone.
Just like, hey, you know what? I was here for this anyway. I'm not here to find love. I'm here to become a TV superstar and sleep with a bunch of girls.
Podcast brought to you in part by Tyson Drugs, G&M Pharmacy. There's no way to segue out of that. G&M 662-236-2222. They deliver to your home or workplace for free. They also offer MedSync for your prescriptions the same day every month to make it easy on you. Food strips possible. You get the medicine when you need it with Right Way Meds. They will individually package your medication by dose and time to make sure you're taking what you need when you need it. Again, Tyson Drugs on the Square in Holly Springs or G&M on South Lamar in Oxford, 662-236-2222.
Dead Soxy wants you to know they've created socks that make an impact. Dead Soxy's teamed up with Vogel Alcove to help young children in the Dallas area overcome the lasting and traumatic effects of homelessness. These incredible socks were created by the very kids this program is serving with 3 one-of-a-kind designs. Each sock tells its own story. So visit deadsoxy.com. Click on the yellow banner at the top of the page to visit the collab page. 50% of all proceeds have been pledged to help break the cycle of child homelessness. Extend the season of perpetual giving. Support this incredible collaboration. While the promo code will not apply to the Vogel Alcove collaboration, in order to maximize the donation, remember to enjoy the 30% off all other Dead Soxy products with promo code Rebel Grove. We're also brought to you by Southern Craft Stove and Tap. They have your pregame and pre-concert needs covered, so whether you're headed to Oxford for the Rebels SEC basketball slate or to Tupelo for one of the many events at Bancorp South Arena, make sure you get your event right with a visit to Southern Craft, conveniently located off Highway 7 and Sisk Avenue in Oxford and at 205 East Troy Street in Tupelo. Southern Craft has all your Southern favorites ready to serve your hunger needs. Drop in, enjoy a curated cocktail or one of their many craft beers on tap, and don't forget their catering. From private event to catering in for your staff at work, Southern Craft has your catering needs covered with a meal everyone is sure to love. So make your day crafty at Southern Craft Stove and Tap. We're also brought to you by Nest and Wild. Sleep better with a Nest and Wild mattress. Nest and Wild is a Mississippi-based mattress company making a high-quality mattress delivered right to your door. They make buying a new mattress easy. Every Nest and Wild mattress is 1 foot thick, giving you comfort and support that will last. A lot of online brands sell an 8-inch or a 10-inch mattress, but not Nest and Wild. From the California King to the twin size, every one is 1 foot thick, 100% American made, and a great value especially when you throw in the podcast discount. It's a no-risk decision. Nest and Wild believes in their product so much they're offering a 99-night trial on every mattress. So try it out, sleep on it for 99 nights, and if you don't like it, you can return it. nestandwild.com. Order your mattress. Use the podcast code REBEL20, REBEL20, and get 20% off your purchase, and it will arrive at your door in 3 to 5 days. We're going to be taping a Mind on My Money podcast later this morning. It'll probably be available to you at some point Wednesday. It is brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust, based in Madison, Mississippi. They also are home to the Pinnacle Trust 401k advisory services team. Call them today. They can conduct a complimentary, no-obligation benchmarking and analysis of your current 401k plan. Mention that you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the Oxford Exxon podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fees. It's pintrust.com, PINN trust.com.
Thoughts on the NL likely going to the DH?
I'm for it. I've kind of changed my view on this over the course of time. I think it overall makes the game more interesting. I think it brings more offense to the game, which is what everyone wants to see anyway. Watching pitchers hit is no fun. It does take some of the strategy out of the NL game. It takes some of the maneuvering out of the NL game, where managers have to really be.
I do like the maneuvering.
Managers really have to be thinking ahead.
But I'll be honest, the number of people that like the maneuvering versus the other is a smaller percentage. It will appeal to more people. If it makes a difference at all, the DH will.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when are they talking about having this done?
2022?
Yeah, I was going to say, surely they're not trying to do this now, right?
No, I think it's 2022.
It just doesn't bother me. I don't know. I've never been an old school traditionalist, and so the people that are that way, I get it. It's fine.
We have eras throughout baseball, and we still try to compare numbers and compare different things. Is this another splice from the standpoint of looking at season and career statistics?
Yeah, of course. Of course. It's when people do the whole who's the greatest player ever. It never works that way. I mean, you can't compare Joe Montana to the modern era quarterback. Nor should you. That shouldn't diminish Montana.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole Jordan, Kobe, LeBron thing. Well, they played in different eras. It's not their fault. People say, well, it's better then. Nah, who knows? You'll never really know, because there's no way possible to take, in this case, Jordan in his prime and put him against LeBron in his prime and find out who the better player was. In baseball, yeah, of course, there's going to be different eras. I mean, there was I'll tell you, I'll give you an example. I was listening to, it got up on Twitter. They put up a few minutes of a game where Greg Maddux was pitching. It was actually his first Braves start, which was at Wrigley Field against.
Somebody says, by the way, they're trying to get it done by 2021. But anyway, go ahead.
It was at Wrigley Field against the Cubs in April of, that would have been 93.
I think that's right.
And Greg Maddux threw a 80-something mile-an-hour fastball, and they made the comment that he's really getting it up there today. And if you think about it, back then, that was not that long ago, 20 years or so, there was not this proliferation of guys who could throw 100. When Aroldis Chapman came up throwing 100, everybody was like, whoa, look at this guy in Cincinnati who throws 100. And now all these dudes throw 100.
Like I say, 96 used to be your gassed-up closer. Now it's middle relief.
Yeah. Well, now, I mean, starters. Yu Darvish is throwing 95 the whole damn game. Justin Verlander was throwing 98 in the ninth this year. This is different. So, yes, the sport's different. Analytics are different. Shifts are different. All of that stuff's different. Yeah. They can't take amphetamines. The game's changed. The game has changed. And so you can't compare Mike Trout to Babe Ruth. I don't know. That doesn't, and when people do it, it doesn't bother me, but I always look at it like, who do you think's the best player ever? There's no way to know that. Mm-mm. How good would Mickey Mantle be today? I don't know. Would he manage his body differently than he did then?
He would be in more peak form, playing against people in more peak form. So I don't know. Maybe it nets out. I don't know.
There's no way to know. And so when people do it, it's a fun little debate. But the true answer is there's no way to really do it.
I mean, the best example of this we talk about all the time is that Babe Ruth was seen as this mythically huge person in history. He was the size of a normal shortstop these days.
Right. Wasn't a big guy.
It's like 6'1", 210 or 215 or something.
Would he in a different era with different nutrition and stuff, would he have been different? Sure, I don't know. Who knows? Here's what you do know. Throughout history in a sport, you know greatness when you see it.
That's a good point.
And greatness would have worked in any era. Kobe Bryant would have been great in any era. Bill Russell would have been great in any era. Ken Griffey Jr. would be great in any era. So would Hank Aaron, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Lou Gehrig, Barry Bonds, Mike Trout. Sure. You know greatness when you see it. It's why the Super Bowl...
Well, greatness is being better than everyone you're competing against.
Yes. It's why the Super Bowl is exciting this year in many levels, is that I think we're all watching to see, is this the next great one? You knew Gretzky was great. You knew Peyton Manning was great. You knew Tom Brady was great. And now we're watching this guy and going, is he the next great one?
Mm-hmm.
And that's fun. You know greatness when you see it.
Crazy stat here. Roger Federer. He's played 1,511 professional matches. Number of professional matches he has not completed, 0.
Wow.
He's never had an injury keep him from finishing a match.
Is he still alive in the Australian Open?
He survived last night, played a guy, and the other guy had 7 match points and didn't convert any of them.
Wow.
5 of them on his own errors.
Well, you don't sleep that night.
Well, I mean, he didn't play bad. Like I looked at a list of it. Multiple ones went to a 7th shot, a 12th shot. Like one was even a 19-shot rally. I mean,
wow.
Because somebody goes, hey, I think it was Bennett Hill, who's a big tennis guy we've on the podcast for. He goes, they said, hey, it's a backhand error. He goes, well, on the 19th shot, it's not really a backhand error. It's, hey, you made my legs feel like Jell-O. I mean, that's credit to Federer at that point. Right. That's not an error. But
and again, greatness.
Yeah. Exactly.
In tennis, you know greatness when you see it. Bjorn Borg was great. People say, well, he wouldn't be great today. Well, he didn't have to be great today. He didn't play today. Jimmy Connors was great. John McEnroe was great. Djokovic is great. Sampras, Federer. You know the names because they stick out. Why is everyone infatuated with Tiger Woods? Because he's greatness.
Well, Tiger may be becoming one of the best examples of anything just because of his ability to do this across multiple errors like this. Comes back in his 40s, and he's as good as a lot of these guys. He's top 10 in the world. He's whatever he is right now. I mean, it's a lot like Agassi. Agassi gets to number 1 in the world, falls completely out. I mean, 300 and something, having to play like challenger events or something, and gets back to number 1 in the world again. When you do that across multiple eras like that, that's what's really impressive for me.
That's why when you ask people about Jack Nicklaus, the first memory they have is of him winning the 86 Masters.
Right, yeah.
Not in his prime.
Yeah, right.
Against guys who were in their primes.
We've said this before, people that always want reviews and stuff. Agassi is the best sports biography I've ever read. It is fantastic.
Best one I've ever read was about Lou Gehrig.
Really?
Incredible.
Yeah, Agassi. It's called Open. Jar Moringer was the ghostwriter for it, but it's very, very, very well done. Gets into his crazy father and his obsession with Brooke Shields and the whole deal. It's good. It's really, really good. So, Ole Miss and Auburn, 8 o'clock tonight, coming to you from the Pavilion. Neil will have coverage at like 11 o'clock, something like that. We'll have plenty of content throughout the week at rebelgrove.com as well. So hope you guys have a great day, and we will talk to you again, I guess, tomorrow very, very soon.